Hello and welcome. Glad you could be with us. He's Dan Longton. I'm Cam Gonzalez. This is Raven Rundown. You're not going to want to miss the show that we have for you. Dan, what do we have in the lineup for today?
Well, today for the lineup for Raven Sports, we have women's volleyball, field hockey, men's soccer, and women's soccer. Most notably, Abigail Sanuga's monster game for the Ravens last night. So you don't want to miss this at all. Stick around because this is
Raven Rundown. Stay tuned.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
We will kick off today's show with the number 19 nationally ranked men's soccer team that had been dominating the Northeast 10 until taking on conference rival Lemoyne. Franklin Pierce fell to Lemoyne by a score of 2-1 on Tuesday during senior day. The loss drops the Ravens to 10-4-0 overall and 8-4-0 in conference play. As for Lemoyne, they improved to 11-3-2 overall and 8-3-1 in the NE10. Dan, this is a tough loss for these guys, but they played so well this season and in recent games, we can't really take this loss too seriously.
No, not at all. I think the thing that needs to be reiterated with this is the fact that this was their senior day. So a lot of people that don't normally play on a consistent basis were in this game.
Right.
This week, for instance, Aiden Albafazli, who's their backup senior goalie for Jadel, who's had a terrific season. So, there's nothing you could take away from that. Still Lemoyne is a good team. There's someone you don't want to be falling to in the regular season, but going down the road with these guys, I didn't see too much wrong with them. Preber's still doing his thing, scored his 11th goal of the season again. And they're still on a roll. They have one more game left against Assumption. I don't see that going in the L column at all. They're just about done this regular season. I think they're looking forward to the playoffs for sure.
This is for sure a playoff-bound team. What do you see them doing in this playoff run?
It's definitely tough to tell, especially after a regular season, because there are some teams that can make some noise. And this NE10 conference too definitely has some really talented soccer teams. You got to talk about Adelphi, who's the number 9 nationally ranked team in the country as of right now for NCAA Division II. You also got to talk about Southern New Hampshire, who's still in the talking for sure. And then you even talk about Lemoyne a little bit. They 11-3-1. So there's some good teams for sure. But in crunch time, this team has shown that they can beat nationally ranked teams, beat strong teams. It's just it's how they go about that day on a consistent basis, and if they're playing the way they do, and that's team soccer, not someone being individualized and trying to score a goal on their own and doing too much. So
no question about it. They only scored one goal in this game, Dan, and we know this team has played extremely well offensively this season. Who are you looking for to really step up for them in this game against Assumption and moving into the playoffs? Because Jacob Blix is a name we referred to a lot early on in the season and midway through, but we haven't heard much about him in recent games.
A week ago he was named NE10 Rookie of the Week for the 3rd straight time. So he did have a couple good games. In the past week or so, I haven't heard much about him as well. So there's someone that he really needs to step up. Another guy, Marius Preber, who's been their offensive threat through this whole entire regular season. And another guy too that I really think should, elevate his game to another level, especially in this NE10 playoffs, is Noam Kolakowski, who, is a quiet name who we've heard here and there as a freshman, but from what I've seen him play in the regular season, he can really go about, making some damage with goals, playing well defensively. So he's another guy that I'd really like to see step up a little bit. And then, there are a couple other guys I think can contribute a little bit too. Hamish Cadigan, captain of the team.
True leader.
You also Nicholas Lawden too, another freshman that has been a pretty good offensive tool for this team as well. So I'd like to see a little bit more come out of them, especially in this playoffs, because Preber and Blix are definitely going to be targets throughout this whole NE10 playoffs coming up. So they got to find some other people, and I think those three guys that I've just named really could do well in this playoffs if they come and step their game up another level for sure.
For sure, Dan. I couldn't agree more. And I mentioned Blix because I'm truly excited to see what he's going to have to offer this Friday against Assumption and then in the playoff run for the Ravens. And Dan, I can't say that I'm worried about this team after the loss because I really do see them having a strong week of practice where they will be sure to have their best effort ready for Friday night when the Ravens will wrap up a stellar regular season against Assumption. Game will take place at 7 under the lights. You don't want to miss that one. And this will definitely be a game that's going to be a challenge for the Ravens, but one that, as we talked about, we see them winning. So I'm looking forward to it, Dan.
Yeah, as am I, Cam. And speaking of a game that you would never want to miss, the Franklin Pierce University women's soccer team had a showdown with Southern New Hampshire on Saturday afternoon from Larkin Field. The game was a defensive battle throughout the whole game. Junior midfielder Midori Ono netted the only goal of the game that would lead the Ravens to a 1-0 win over our rival, Southern New Hampshire, on the road in Northeast 10 conference play. A big win for the Ravens as they move to 6-6-2 overall and 4-6-2 in conference. Cam, this is a team that's trying to make that late push for the playoffs. They had a great game against Southern New Hampshire, and then they played today against Lemoyne on their senior day. Talk to us a little bit on what you're hoping for the them to wrap up this regular season.
Well, Dan, I'm excited for what this team's going to do, and this is a huge step in the right direction for them. A huge win, 1-0. That's a close game. That's a tight game. That's a game that is very competitive throughout. And what really sticks out to me, as you mentioned, the goal for Ono, is her scoring, because this has been a player that has played extremely well in this offense all season long, and maybe doesn't get the credit that she deserves. Because a couple games that I've watched, she moves the ball extremely well. She's smart with her possessions and her passing.
Absolutely.
So I'm not surprised by this goal for Ono. I'm happy to see it, and I'm happy to see her build on it moving forward. And another thing, Dan, that sticks out to me is the performance from Casey Cook. I mean, as you can see, the goose egg for SNHU, no goals on the board. But the crazy thing is that Cook made one save for only one shot on goal. So clearly this means that the Franklin Pierce defense was on their game throughout this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're making a push for playoffs. They're making their best contentions for it, and this is the perfect time to be doing it. Is right now where this is where you want those W's. As far as playoffs go, though, what do you think you're seeing from them? Do you think they make that cut for NE10 playoffs? Do you think they just missed the cut? What are we thinking for that?
I really think this can be a playoff team. And the reason why is because they have a great defense. They've given up some cheap goals, some tough goals that aren't exactly Casey Cook's fault. But, I think despite only saving one shot, this win is going to give her confidence moving forward, and also the rest of the team. Because not letting a team score in a game is huge, especially in soccer. So you got to credit your defense.
Absolutely.
And as I said, they played well all season,
Mhm.
and I think they're going to carry that into what I see the playoffs.
And really glad to see this Ravens team get this victory, Cam. And I think it gives this team the edge going into playoffs coming up pretty soon. So
Couldn't agree more, Dan. You know,
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to what they're going to have to offer. So we'll definitely keep an eye on them and look forward to reporting their future success to Raven Nation. And with that, Dan, we'll take a short break. But you guys don't want to go anywhere because when you come back, we're going to get into field hockey. And what do we have left? Oh, I screwed that up. You didn't move the teleprompter when Dan was on it.
Whoever was this.
So yeah, when Dan started saying really glad to see the Ravens get this victory, that was like teleprompter and it didn't move, so he kind of improv'd and then it kind of got screwed up.
It's pretty good improv on my point.
It was good improv. I just
All right.
So
So just start whenever. Or? Really glad to see the Ravens get this victory, Cam, and I think this gives this team the momentum and confidence that they can use when they return to the field on Wednesday, October 26th, to take on Lemoyne in Northeast 10 Conference play. The Ravens will be on their home turf as the game is set for 4 p.m. at Sodexo Field in Ringe.
Well, Dan, a great game for the women's soccer team and a well-deserved victory. Unfortunately, though, Dan, victories continue to be a problem for the Franklin Pierce University field hockey team. Tough. The Ravens were shut out for the 4th straight game. Dan, this is the 2nd time this season that the Ravens have gone through this win drought. And this 4th loss came on Tuesday night when the Ravens faced off against number 3 nationally ranked St. Anselm. Franklin Pierce held St. Anselm to just 1 goal in the first half. But Dan, the damage was done when they netted 2 in the second half and held the Ravens to a goose egg throughout. St. Anselm would go on to defeat Franklin Pierce by a score of 3-0 from Grappone Stadium in Northeast 10 Conference play. Dan, a staggering loss for the Ravens and one that they will need to find a way to bounce back from.
Cam, yeah, I can't agree with that more. This has been a very, very disappointing season for this field hockey team for sure. Falling 3-0 to a team that they lost to in the beginning of the year 3-2. Is something that, for me, I'm kind of questioning because this is the point in the season where your team needs to be improving, not declining. And so it's a big disappointment to see a 3-0 score to St. Anselm, regardless if they're the number 3 nationally ranked team. That still is not an excuse. I mean, Megan Williams had 7 saves on 11 shots on goal, but Megan Williams can only do so much at goal. Megan Williams doesn't score the goal; she saves the goals. The lack of offense this season has, in my opinion, been mind-blowing to me. They have offensive threats, and I hate to be the guy that points people out, but they have someone like a Carly Canavan who was an all-conference player last year. They have people like Lauren Grimard, Sarah Bjorn, Danielle Harris, all these very talented girls that on the offensive side of that field, but they just can't seem to get something clicking, and it's very, very disappointing in my opinion to keep on hearing that this team is losing 3-4 straight games in a row.
So you discussed some key players for this team. One of them, Lauren Grimard, who actually had a defensive save for the Ravens. But, Dan, 11 shots on goal for Megan Williams. She clearly has her work cut out for her in these games. How much can you put the blame on the defense for this team?
It's the biggest part of their, you know, game, but it's, in my opinion, it really isn't the defense that's the problem at all. It is in my opinion, the offense. I think the defense for this team isn't, it's not great. I would say it's a little over subpar, but they're getting their job done on that side of the field. The problem is, you know, scoring that ball, and they can't seem to find a way to do that at all. It's very frustrating for them. I mean, I know they don't have a couple of their key offensive players. I mean, I've talked about it before in recent shows where, Reagan Moulton, who made the all-rookie team last year, who's coming in as a sophomore, tore her ACL in the spring last year. So she had to miss out on this season, what was a huge score for that team. It's very disappointing to see these type of results, because this could be a very strong field hockey team, but they just can't seem to find the tools on that offensive side of the field at all.
Well, they fall to St. Anselm 3-0, and I'll close with this. They've lost 4 straight. Dan, what do they do as a team to come together and finish this season the best way that they can?
In my opinion, you just gotta, as a team, you gotta come together and be like, listen, we don't, this team is clearly not going to make any 10 playoffs this year. I hate to say it, but they're not. This is at this point now where the team needs to come together and realize, listen, we don't have a shot necessarily at making any 10 playoffs, but there are some teams that are in the running for it. Let's try and knock these guys off, by trying to win these next couple games, because they still have some games left. They can have a competitive edge in some of these games. I mean, I don't see a problem at all with that, but for them though, they gotta want it, and sometimes that aggression level and that way of wanting something is just, it's not always there. So with these next couple games coming up to wrap up this season, they got to go get it. They can't let it come to them for these games.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And Dan, I'm hoping for the best for this team, and really looking forward to seeing them finish their season strong, as your Ravens will have the chance to snap this losing streak when they return to the field on Friday, October 28th. This matchup on the road against LIU Post in a Northeast 10 matchup. Game time is set for 2 p.m. at Bethpage Federal Credit Union Stadium in Brookville, New York.
We're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we will wrap up with our final sport of the day, women's volleyball. Don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Welcome back. And Cam, the struggles of the field hockey team have been discussed a lot on our show, and we have done the same with volleyball. That will not be the case, though, this week for the Franklin Pierce volleyball team, as they truly proved themselves by defeating a Northeast 10 Conference opponent, Bentley University, 3-1 on Tuesday evening. The win came during the team's Dig Pink game in the field house with an electric crowd and a team that made sure they did not disappoint. The thrilling victory for the Ravens improves their record to 7-13 overall and 3-5 in Northeast 10 conference play. As for Bentley, the loss drops them to 9-14 overall and 6-3 in the conference. A huge victory for the Ravens, and one they will definitely need. Cam, this win the Ravens needed for this point, coming down for these last couple stretches before the regular season wraps up for them. What are we thinking?
Dan, this is huge. We've talked about this team so much on the show, and not necessarily good things, but so happy to see this. A huge win at home, 3-1. I mean, that's huge against Bentley too. Very impressive. And as we said last week on the show, we talked about the play from Abigail Sanuga, Katie Leahold. They didn't disappoint in this game, Dan. 15 kills for Sanuga, a a 538 hitting percentage with 5 blocks. Just great stuff from Abigail. And then you got Leahold to complement her with 12 kills, 13 digs, 2 service aces, 2 assists, and 1 block. Dan, great play from the two of them, but they weren't the only two that
Absolutely
played stellar
not.
in this
No, not
game to
tonight.
contribute toward the victory.
Yeah, no, I mean, and this is what we had been talking about in the past couple weeks, where they need to have players step up for sure. And one of them is most notably a freshman. Finally hearing something about the underclassmen here. Danielle Verchicho added 10 kills, 7 digs, 2 service aces, and 1 assist for this team. And then Hannah Runge, the setter for this volleyball team, had 48 assists. They had a great. This was the first time I felt like I've seen this team actually go out and play at a high level, but stay confident throughout it the whole time. There was that fourth set where they were up at I think 6 or 7 points or so.
Yep.
And ended up dropping a couple to make it 20, 23, 21 at one point. And they stayed with it though. They had a couple really long points, but they were getting the ball back. They were regrouping, setting the ball, and finishing points off. And that's what really helped them in this. And I think that's what their struggle has been in these past couple weeks, is just not finding a rhythm. And
Couldn't agree more.
When finding a rhythm, staying with it, not slumping after a couple sets. And they finally did it. I couldn't be more proud for this team for sure. Just because of the fact, I have some pretty close friends on this team.
Yep.
All these girls are very well respected on campus, great people. So just to see them get a win, for sure, it makes the community proud for sure. Even against a team, that's 6-3 in conference. So to snag a win like that, that's not a give me. You really have to earn that.
Yep. It's huge, Dan, and it's so great to see the freshman Vericchio step up in this game. As we talked about so much in previous shows, how this team really needs to work in the play of the underclassmen and really find that chemistry, and I'm really glad to see that they finally found it in this game. A big win for them. Great to see it.
Yeah, and with that, Cam, they come down to their last couple games as well, as fall sports are ending up that regular season. Where do you think they stand coming into playoffs? Again, this is another team that is kind of on that verge, like women's soccer. They could make it, they could not. What are we thinking on that, though?
Before this game against Bentley, I would have told you this is not a playoff team. But after this win, Dan, I saw some really good things when I watched this game in the field house. An electric crowd, a team that really just had it all going. And they were picking each other up when they were down. And as we saw, the freshmen got involved. Sanuga and Leahold are going to lead this team. And it's going to be up to the people below them to step up and really play together. And if they can do that, if they can do what they did against Bentley, against Southern Connecticut State, and for the remainder of the season, this can be a playoff team, Dan.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that too. I have said they do need the upperclassmen to step up a little bit, but at the same time too, they have so much faith in these two girls on this team that why not them? I mean, they have a couple years left. By the time they'll be seniors, they're gonna have a successful team. But right, that's in the future a little bit. So. For right now though, their main focus is coming in with a winning attitude these next couple games to close out and finish strong for sure.
I mean, I think it's tremendous momentum for them, and I'm really looking forward to this ending stretch for them of the season.
Absolutely, and with that, the Crimson Gray return to the field house on Thursday when they host Southern Connecticut State in a 7 p.m. Northeast 10 conference contest. So
should be a great one, Dan.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it. And we wrap up with that exciting victory for volleyball, and ultimately we wrap up the show. So thank you for joining us for today's show, and shout out to our great cast and crew that makes Raven Rundown possible. Look forward to seeing you next week, and look forward to seeing Ravens athletics between now and then. For FPTV, I'm Cam Gonzalez.
And I'm Dan Longton.
And this is
Raven
Raven
Rundown.
Rundown.